What it is, people, Fahir here from AwesomeTuts.com. Before we continue with our game, I am going to introduce a new concept that is called Unity's UI. UI stands for User Interface. Now, Unity has a cool UI which gives you a lot of control over its elements. It gives you control where you can position those elements and you can let them stay there in that position no matter on which screen size your game is being played, which is pretty cool. Now, how can we create those UI elements? Now, same as any other game object, you can right click and go under UI here and then create whatever UI you want. So you have a text, image, raw image, button, so on and so forth. Or you can go under game object right here on the tab, and then you can go under UI here and create a game or a UI element. Now, one thing to know, that no matter which element you create, so for example, if I click to create an image, bam, you will see this, you see this white here, rectangle or cube or whatever it is. This is that image. Now, notice what we have here from these elements. We have something called a canvas. What is a canvas? Now, every UI element needs to be a child of the canvas. So we clicked to create an image, but we got a canvas with it. The point here is that any UI element, be that image, if I go here, be that text, image, raw image, button, toggle, slider, blah, 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 so on and so forth, it cannot exist without the canvas. So the canvas is, well, like a canvas. Think of it like a canvas. If I go here in the scene, you see this right here, this huge thing. This is the canvas. You see this right here. If I turn it off, we don't see the canvas anymore. So this is the canvas. Now, let's talk about a little bit about the options that the canvas has. Now, if you take a look at here in the inspector panel, we have something called a rect transform. Now, the regular game objects, if I select the coin parent, he has a transform only. He does not have a rect transform. Rect transform is for the UI elements. Now, as you can see, we cannot edit it. It's not editable. You see anything that we put here, it will not work. The reason for it lies here in the canvas options that we have. So we have something called render mode. What is a render mode? Well, screen space overlay is one of those render modes that you can choose. We have screen space camera and world space. Now, screen space overlay will simply overlay the canvas on the screen space. And notice you have an image here that you can move. So if I go here, let me just take the image. Here is our image, and you can move it on that screen space. If I put it here, you see where the image now is at the top left corner. So the screen space is the space where you are going to, well, position your UI elements. Now, we also have something called screen space camera. If I click on that, you see automatically some options here have changed. We have the render camera, which has an empty field. It says here screen space, a canvas with no specified camera, Lexla acts like an overlay canvas. Please assign a camera to it in the render camera field. So we need to drag and drop the main camera here, and bam, we are done. Now, where is our image? What is going on? Well, first, let me just take the image, position it at 0, 0, and take a look at where the canvas is. Come on, let me just zoom in. So here is the canvas, but we don't see the canvas because we need to take him. And I need to say order in layer is 3. So now we see the canvas. Why order in layer is 3? Well, because we can use the sorting layers. You see here, we can use the sorting layers for the canvas as well when the canvas is on screen space camera. Now, before we continue to talk about that, you also have the world space. World space will make the canvas reside in Unity's world space right here. If I go back to 3D mode, you see it will be in Unity's world space. Now, for 2D games, you will not use, at least I did not see anyone use it. I personally don't use world space in 2D games. World space is best seen in 3D games where you can actually position a game object or a UI element above a 3D model and make it go with it, so on and so forth. But in a 2D game, it's not the same. So I don't use world space in a 2D game. I usually use screen space camera, attach the main camera, and bam, here we are. Now pay attention, as I already said, since we are using screen space camera, we have sorting layers here. Same explanation that I have explained for these sprites when we talked about rendering and how can we make one game object render on top of another. Everything applies here. So we have the sorting layer and we have order in layer. I'm gonna say order in layer is 3 for the canvas, and well, the canvas will be rendered on top of everything else. If I take a look at the background, it's on order in layer 0. So yeah, we are good to go. Now we also have something that is called an anchor. What is an anchor? Well, if I select the image, you see here, in the rect transform of the image, we have this anchor presets. So when you click on this little cube right here, you see it says center, middle, and anchor. So we have anchors here. So when you click on this right here, you can set the anchor point for your UI element. Let's say if I want this image to be at the top left corner. So if I want it to be right here and stay here, I can specify that with an anchor. Now currently the anchor is set in the center. So this game object will behave based on the center. So it will behave based on the center of our game, or yeah, the game that we are playing. Now we cannot see the effect right here when I'm resizing all of this, but it can happen that on some screen sizes you will not see your UI element because the anchor for it is at the center, but the game object or this UI element is positioned at the top left corner. So if you want it to be here, you will select or click on this anchor preset and you will select the top left corner. So now it will make it stick right there at the top left corner. So no matter which resolution we use now, it will try to stick it at that, well, position. So if I even take or put it 480 by 800, so let me just go back here, take the, or put it back at the middle. So now the anchor is at the middle. And if I change the resolution to 480 by 800, you see, we don't see the UI element. This is what I was talking about. But if we take the image and set the anchor at top left corner where the game object is positioned, if I set 480 by 800, we still see the UI element, which is our image. So we still see that image, which is going to try every time to position itself based where its anchor is. And this is how we make our UI elements look the same on every screen size our game is being played on. And this is possible via Unity's UI system. Now, of course, you have other UI elements. So you have a text, you have an image, you have a raw image, button. We will use buttons, images, and text for most parts. Slider, it's self-explanatory. It's a slider. Drop down, it's a drop-down list. We have a panel. Panel also can act like an image. We will use all of that. Do not worry. But at the moment, what we need, and here I'm simply going to say UI canvas, we need an image that is going to represent our coins and our lives. So life here, I'm going to, well, put it like this. And in order for us to have an image for the life, we can go here in our player, and I'm going to take the player one, this one. So I'm going to select the life UI element, which is an image, and I'm going to drag and drop player underscore 3C underscore 0 right here where it says source image, and bam, you see it now. Over there, we have our player. If I set the native size, yeah, I think I can resize it just a little bit. So let's say 64 by 90. Yeah, I think this can do. Just to resize the game object a little bit so that it is not, or we can simply go here, click on this tool and resize it properly. Something like this can do. And I'm going to position him right here. His anchor is at the top left corner. So this one is going to represent our lives. We are also going to duplicate this one, and this one is going to be coins. And I'm going to go in the sprites and in items, and here we have our coin. Select the coins right here, drag and drop the coin in the coin image, and bam, here we are. I'm going to position him a little bit lower. If I set the native size, yeah, native size will not work. Maybe if I say here 50-50. Let me take a look at how this looks like. I think this is okay, and I'm going to position him right here. So bam, This one is going to represent our lives. This one is going to represent our coins. This is so that we can indicate to the user how many lives and how many coins we have. Now, of course, we need a text for that. So I'm going to right click UI text. And let me just see where the text is. Text is right here in the middle, as you can see it. I'm going to put this one right here because this is going to be the text for our lives. And I'm going to resize the text field. So resize the text field, something like this, and put it here. Set the text alignment so you can have, or you have options here in the inspector panel. So you have the text that you want to be here. So I'm going to say X0, which means indicating that we have 0 lives. I am going to set the alignment here at the left side but middle. So you see left middle is the alignment. I am gonna resize the font to something like this, and let me just resize the sprite also. So resize the UI element. I said sprite. Font size can be at 50. Let me see here. Yeah, this is okay. Now I am going to change the color, so you can click on the color here and change the color to white, and voila, here we are. If you have your own fonts that you have imported here in the project, you can click on this little circle and search for those fonts. Now fonts are those .ttf with .ttf extension files, and when you import one of these, you can test that on your own. Simply download any font you want, and simply you can either drag and drop it here in the fonts to use that font, or click on this little circle and then search it here in the project. So this is for our lives, and I am going to duplicate it, and this is going to be for our coins, and bam, here we are. Let me just take this is going to be the life text, and this is going to be the coin text, and bam, we are done. So of course you can create this prettier, you can, I don't know, stylize it better, but this is just for educational purposes, so I'm not gonna go be all Picasso-like and create this like the best user interface that you ever see. No, but I'm telling you how you can create it, and then, well, you can use other fonts, you can use other images, so on and so forth. Now, for now, we learned about what is the canvas. The canvas holds every UI element. We saw or used an image, so we can use here or add an image that we want. It will represent that image, and we saw the text. Now, you can play also with some other options here that you have, such as changing the font style, line spacing, adding more text, so on and so forth. Just experiment a little bit, and then you are good to go. Now, of course, you will see some other UI elements such as buttons along the way in the course. But if you want to learn about every single UI element, you can simply go here on Google, type Unity UI, and then click on this user interface UI tutorials, which will take you here. And then you can learn about the UI canvas, UI rect transform, button, image, text, event triggers. We will talk about this event triggers because we will need them in order to press a button and execute a line of code. UI slider, transitions, masks, so on and so forth. Create a game using the UI, live sessions on UI, so you can watch all of this and learn, well, in more detail about Unity's UI interface, because there are already tutorials made on that, so I don't need to repeat everything, but we will use them in our course and see how we can use them, and through practical examples, learn that. So, Fahir here from AwesomeTuts.com. I will see you guys in the next video.